Atul sir, I am absolutely honored to have you on Filme Shilmy. I think you are definitely among the finest talents we have within the industry, and I think it's just so great to chat with you on the success of a Thursday. So, firstly, a huge congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Right. So, A Thursday is a very gripping thriller that actually addresses several important societal issues, actually. So how challenging is it, would you say, Atul sir, for cinema nowadays to kind of engage yet educate audiences?
Uh, Over the years, it has become challenging, and simply because the audience is more educated now in the technical sense of it, the technique of cinema I'm talking about.
Hmm.
That's because of multiple reasons. Number one is, of course, what we do for living and the instrument that we use for living, camera, is in everybody's hands now. So everyone is using camera, everyone is using the technique, everyone is shooting videos, editing them, putting on the net. So that's in a way educating them technically. Secondly, because of a lot of television shows and other things, we have been telling people about behind the scenes and about how the film is shot, about the equipments that we use and everything. Plus, because of the social media, I think the people have started writing more than they used to, and that also I think it's not just for their own self, but they publish that writing day in and day out. So this, in a way, indirectly trains the audience about filmmaking, about how the writing is. Plus, there is explosion of content because of OTT platforms. So yes, you're absolutely right. It is now more challenging for the filmmakers to satisfy the audiences.
Absolutely. But I think A Thursday, on both accounts that you mentioned there, definitely satisfies both those aspects. In fact, your character Javed is a low gatekeeper, but yet he misses a very valuable opportunity to help, deliver justice to a person who basically whose pain was very ignored by not just society but by the law also. So what did you as a person take away from the role, and perhaps the way society sort of treat survivors of social injustice?
See, this has been a problem since we invented farming about 10,000 years ago. So I always say that the root of all the problems that we see today is in the invention of farming. That's when we invented properties, and when we invented systems around it, and we invented injustice, we invented hierarchy, everything. So now, though this is a very old problem, I think one should not stop from correcting it, at least attempt to correct wherever the social problems are. And as far as A Thursday is concerned, I think that is exactly what the writers are trying to say, that fine, there has been an error from the side of the system, but then here is your chance to, correct it. That is exactly what Thursday is talking about. And I think that is what the people have loved so much, apart from, of course, the screenplay, all the technicalities, the actors, and all that. But I think that message is what people are taking home.
Right. And I'm really glad you mentioned that whole sense of redemption, actually. And I wanted to extend that actually to a lot of the films that you've done, a lot of the works that you've pursued. My earliest memory of your work and me loving your work actually was in Chandni Bar, with the character that
Yeah.
you played. I mean, it was a very rough, on the edge character.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that I've realized, Atul said that a lot of your flawed or gray characters that you've essayed, they all seem to have a redemption of sorts. I mean, be it, for example, Rang de Basanti, or even Even Javed, for example, in A Thursday, we can take as well. So that's, I mean, that's something that I've interpreted, anyways. So as an artist, how does one present that redemption in a very real and organic manner?
I think, these are the famous characters, and that's why there is a feeling that I have done so many of them, but I think they are most famous characters, and that's why
True.
one feels so. However, I have a feeling that, script is the king. The way the script is written, the way the character is written, that is what matters, and that is the raw material that the actor gets.
Right.
So there may be common traits, so to say, as you said, in this particular case, redemption, but uh, I think what dictates the behavior of the character is the writing of the script, what the story is, and what the character is, how the character is portrayed in the script. So I think that dictates, and of course, the storyteller is extremely important, which is the director. So here in Thursday, Behzad's vision was extremely important to me. How he wanted the character, how he wanted to show the redemption. So I think all these things they really help an actor.
Right, right. Definitely, script is always king, and I think, yeah, I think it's always important for an actor to have that reference point to go back to, as well as, of course, the external support factors like the filmmaker himself or herself. But I think it's also very interesting when, as an actor, because we will be talking about your craft in just a moment. But I find it very fascinating because you've also adapted Forrest Gump for Lal Singh Chadda, which I think is very interesting. And I'm very much looking forward to that film. And I just can't wait for it to release soon because the release date keeps changing and changing and changing. Um, so I think for you, when you have an established concept, that's already worked, what would you say have been the sort of most difficult things to customize an established script or an established writing piece to cater towards an Indian audience? How challenging was that for you as a writer?
Well, Anuj, as you would know, it is extremely challenging, and especially when it is a film like Forrest Gump. However, we are releasing the film on 11th of August,
Yes.
and there is a lot of time still for that. And I'll definitely be, there's lots to talk about the writing of Lal Singh and generally the process of Lal Singh Chaddha. But I'll be definitely talking in detail about it in July, August.
All right, fine. Well, I'll definitely chase you up on that, Atul sir, for sure,
Sure,
near the time.
sure.
But
Would be a
okay,
pleasure.
yes. So, I mean, Atul sir, you have roots in theatre and I believe a diploma from the National School of Drama. So what would you say are the most fundamental skills for you as an actor? And in what ways have these virtues actually helped you in your career and your craft thus far?
Well, I have always felt that there are as many methods of acting as many actors in this world. Everyone has his or her own method to deal with the role and to tell a story. Um, the most important thing, according to me, is how you are leading your life in general, because you are the instrument, and as they say that you are the fiddle and the fiddler. So it is extremely important how you tune your instrument, which is to say, of course, your body, but your mind as well, your brain as well. So how are you tuning it? What are you doing when you're not acting, when you're not on the set? I think that is extremely important because that constitutes a human being that you are. That constitutes your understanding of the world. And naturally, that constitutes the understanding of the script that is given to you, the role that is given to you. So for me, of course, there are acting is a technique. You, of course, need to master, those techniques according to your own understanding and ability. But for me, it is very important what you take in before you try and give something out.
Right. Right. That is so true. And I'm glad you mentioned that whole internal and external factor. Um, because we are living in times that, are constantly changing. I mean, nothing was ever permanent anyway, but I think now the nature of life has become so fragile that things have become more momentary. The socio-political atmosphere is changing, financial, environmental atmosphere is changing. So how do you, as an artist, imbibe the ever-changing external factors around you?
Very, very important factor, Anuj. I'm really glad you brought it up because it is the speed uh, which is different now. Just today morning, I was talking to a youngster, and I was telling the same thing that in our times, of course, the things were changing, but the speed was kind of fathomable. But now, it is extremely difficult to catch on to
Yeah.
things and the way they are changing. And I've always believed that all the isms that we talk about, the root is in the technological change that has happened at that particular time. And right now, the speed that we are talking about, the speed is there. It is so fast because of the technological changes. And that definitely affects the businesses, the economy, and so the sociology, everything. So, so according to me, it starts with the development of technology or the change in the technology, and so businesses, economy, and everything else. Um,
Mm.
so you may be an actor, you may not be an actor, you may be in any profession, but it is very, very important to keep pace with the changes.
Yeah.
uh, See, what happens is that after a particular age, and that age I'm not talking about the old age, I'm talking about fairly young age,
Mm.
where you get complacent, where you kind of think that now I don't need to learn anything anymore. Whatever I have learned is enough. But I think those days are gone. If you think in that direction, and then what happens is that out of that complacency, when you come to know, rather when you realize that you are not, with the times and you're falling behind, you start cursing, the present times, and you start saying that, oh, in our days, and these were the values, and these were the this, and these were the that. So I think that will not help you if you don't keep pace with the time, if you don't change, if you don't learn, if you don't unlearn and relearn, only one thing is going to happen. You are going to fall behind.
Mm.
No one is going to stop for you.
Mhm.
And you'll be miserable at the end of it. And so it is all the more true for an artist because you are all the time communicating with the audiences and the audience is changing. So if you don't take cognizance of this, then you'll be irrelevant.
It's very interesting you said this because I think Ramesh Sipisa said this to me once in an interview that if you don't change with the changing times, you do become irrelevant. And I think for you as artists as well, um, I think it must be all the more imperative, right, to sort of adapt to the changing times. Otherwise, you get left behind. And I think we've seen examples of certain filmmakers who are very stuck in their ways, and that as a result, their product also fails. So I guess it must be all the more imperative for you as artists, right, to adapt to the sort of changing fabrics of society and the sort of conversations taking place also, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to be a practicing artist, then it's all the more important. Of course, you can take a decision and sit back and say that no, I have told my stories, I have done whatever I wanted to do, and I would still like to keep pace with the time, with the changes, but I don't want to manifest that into my art. So that also is fair. That's also is fine.
Mm.
We need not judge people who don't want to express
Mm.
themselves
Right.
in accordance with the modern changes in time. But that's why I said earlier that whatever profession you may be in, or you may not be in any profession, you might be as well retired with big bank balance and all that. But still, if if you don't keep pace with the changes, if you don't take cognizance of it, if you're not child enough to absorb everything that is happening around you, I think you may not die a happy person.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with this. But I think it's interesting because I remember watching Rockstar actually, and
Mhm.
there was a very interesting line that I think one of the characters said, "Ke toote dil se hi sangeet nikalta hai." I think along those lines, that's what one of the dialogues was. And I've just begun to think actually on recent days, Atul, so that I feel like pain is so necessary, I feel, for you as an artist to bring out those emotions. So I wanted to actually pose this question to you a little bit because I'm very fascinated to know. How do you internalize pain and grief and present that sentiment within a role? How do you channelize all those emotions through a character that you choose to pursue?
I think pain is overrated. I don't think that is a necessity for any art to uh, to be depicted or to be brought forward. I think what we are actually talking about is what makes you think, what makes you question, what makes you, wanting to tell a story. And it may well as well be happiness. It need not be pain as well. What happens with pain is that the force is much more. It is much more visible. It is much more intense. And so the questioning probably is much more. So that is why probably one feels that way. But I don't think that is an essential factor for
Hmm.
for any artist. Not at all. It could be. That could be one of the factors. But there could be an extremely happy situation around me, and
Right.
I would might want to tell a story about that moment, about
Hmm.
that happy thing. That is something which is going on in my life, which is so endearing, which is so loving. So that also could be there. So to answer your question, I think, well, pain can be one of the instruments uh, to bring out the art in you, but that
Right.
is not the only factor. No.
Very true. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess you have to experience a plethora of emotions in life to actually present a character
What
convincingly.
stimulates is important. What stimulates you,
Mm,
and that's what brings out the art.
right.
So it completely depends on the individual as to what stimulates you. It need not be pain alone.
Hmm. I think what also really intrigues me about the acting profession is the way, like, actors are literally like chameleons. They literally can come
Like
in and, like chameleons, they can change
chameleons.
and be
Okay.
completely in and out of characters. I'm very fascinated. I'm very, very fascinated
Hmm.
by the whole art of it. But I feel like, do you ever feel there's a conflict, I think, between the person you play and the person, for example, do you ever feel that there is a conflict of what you as a person believe versus the worldly circumstances of the character that you're playing? How does one ever, like, sort of overcome that conflict ever?
So, see, I am, as I said earlier, that there are as many methods, as many actors in this world. So I can talk only about myself in this. Uh, and that is that I am not that kind of an actor who would, allow anything to conflict, what I believe in, to conflict with what I'm portraying.
Hmm.
I would listen to a story neutrally, and I would neutrally in the sense I would like to listen to a story as a viewer, as a normal cinema goer, and I would like to see if I get entertained enough, if I get intrigued enough, as a viewer, and if I am, then I would love to be a part, of telling that story to
Hmm.
the people.
Right.
So, and it's a technique. I am paid, I am trained to deceive people.
It's
In
true.
the sense, in a good sense, that if I keep on, getting lost in the characters and start believing in the ideologies that I am portraying, number one, I don't think that is possible. Um, if someone is saying that, it will be very hard for me to believe that. Uh, you know, Uh, uh, Secondly, that is not your job. Your job is of making people believe,
Right.
uh, and that is what you should try. You, of course, there are certain. Now I'm growing mustaches, for example. So there are, that is for a certain character that I'm going to do, and so of course there are changes, and of course, but those are momentary changes. Those should not and need not conflict with my own life, according to me.
Right. I mean, talking of mustaches, I think you look lovely with the mustache. So please keep it on. I absolutely love the look. So please, उस look को बरकरार रखिए, please. मुझे बहुत
Thank you. Thank you.
नहीं नहीं.
Thanks, thanks.
But I think we were talking about systems before, and I feel like generally, I mean, maybe this is just my interpretation. The film industry, I feel, can really, I mean, potentially bracket actors. I mean, not necessarily the industry actually, but people who call the shots, who are in, who are decision makers. And you're one actor who has essayed a plethora of roles, not just in Hindi cinema, but even in non-Hindi movies. And I think, like, even your Marathi work is fascinating as well. And I love the characters and the work that you've done there. Like I said, you've never shied away from portraying, gritty and morally challenged characters and other styles, of course, too. So how conscious has your decision been, I think, throughout these years, Atul sir, to not conform to a particular strand or category of cinema or characters?
See, as an actor, you can only choose from what is offered to you. Because you are not the writer or a director or a producer, you are just an actor. So things are offered to you and you choose from those things. So in very early stage of my career, I learned a word which I used quite often, and that's spelled No. So saying no to certain things. And after saying no to things, then of course you are left with what you want to do, and then you choose from that. And this saying no, there are multiple reasons, and the one reason could be what you are right now mentioning, is that probably I don't want to repeat the same kind of character. So the story may be good, the character may be good, but probably I might be doing the same thing which I have recently done. And that could be a reason for me to say no to a certain role. So in effect, I guess, but there is, of course, the other side, that it's also true that so many interesting scripts and characters have been offered to me by great directors, which were completely different from each other. Like Rakesh Mehra, I have done 3 films, Madhur, I have done 3 films. These directors, they have offered me, though they were the same directors, they have offered me characters which were completely different from each other. So these directors, and I'm fortunate enough to work with great directors who have the capability of what is typecasting, casting the same character that you have seen, right? Not casting the director, that is typecasting.
True.
But these directors, these great directors, they have the capacity to see the actor through the character that he's portraying. So they can see the capability of that person as an actor. So they don't get stuck with the character that particular actor has done. And I think I have just been fortunate enough to have been offered such varied characters.
Oh yes, definitely. And I also think it's interesting when I hear a lot of the times when I've spoken with actors that, they've obviously taken up roles before because they had financial challenges to meet, they had financial responsibilities to meet. And obviously now they're at a position where they can say no to certain scripts. Was there ever a time in your life where you felt like you had to take up work where you weren't happy doing, but had to do it because you had to make money and had to sort of survive? So do you feel like saying no is also a bit of a, comes at a stage where you are more financially stable too in this career?
No, see, there is no one stage as such for this. And this concern can be there right from your first film till your last film, because there is no fixed amount, which is, you can say and write that, okay, now I'm okay saying no. Of course, it changes as per your career goes ahead and all that. But that definitely can, because see, what you have done is basically you have turned your hobby into a profession. And for any artist who turns into a professional actor or a singer or whoever, that is one thing that you are doing. That what was your hobby, you are turning that into your profession. And once it's a profession, it's a business. Dhanda hai wo. And then, of course, there are certain things that you have to take care of because that is what you are dependent on if you are a full-time actor or whatever, and especially if you are just beginning your career. With me, fortunately, I didn't have to struggle much. I got my first film, which was Hey Ram, which was such a big film that I got because of my play that I was doing that time called Gandhi Virudh Gandhi. And because of Hey Ram, I got Chandni Bar. Because of Chandni Bar, I got, Dam and other films. And I was introduced in South as well, all the southern languages in Hey Ram, because Hey Ram was in, of course, Tamil and Telugu and Hindi. So I got introduced in all the languages simultaneously. So I had that advantage as well, because I have been working in 7 languages for last 22 years. So that also gives you a leverage that if you don't find a certain, a script of your liking in one language, but you are finding it in some other language, you are doing that script at that particular time. So again, I think I was fortunate enough, and I can't really say that I had to rather do things only for money all the time. There might have been some occasions initially, but I should not be complaining about the fortune that I have had.
No, absolutely. No, I mean, what a great journey you've had thus far. And I think it's going to get even better because you have Rudra coming up, which obviously with Ajay Devgan as well, which is the Indian adaptation of the British psychological crime thriller Luther. I used to watch Luther quite often. I think Idris Elba did such a fab job as well in it. So I guess exploring a dark, almost procedural genre again, what challenges has the role, I guess, posed to you as an actor? I mean, what was your most memorable thing about working on this series?
The scale of it, of course, because this is probably the biggest show on the Indian OTT platform ever.
Oh, wow.
In terms of scale, in terms of the cast, so everything. So it is, of course, it was a very, very interesting journey to be part of such a huge thing for OTT, of course. Films, of course, have done huge films and all that, but for OTT, this is kind of an, I think, experiment, you can say, or for the first time, this is happening on Indian OTT.
Right.
So that was one thing. Second, of course, the adaptation of it from Luther. It is completely a Indianization of Luther. Of course, the cases are same and all that. But see, what differs in any adaptation or should differ is the characters. In the sense of how that character, the name and basic outline could be the same. But for example, Indians are extremely emotional. If there is friendship, then the friendship is extremely emotional. All the relationships are complex and emotional and all that. That's where I think Rudra beats Luther, if I may say so. Because that is where I think Rudra has become very dense and very interesting and very intense.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that is the most fascinating thing about the sort of content that we've watched over the years. I mean, see, why do Indian serials work? It's because they're very tugging at the heartstrings, and I feel like we are a very emotional community, which is nothing wrong with that, actually, to be very honest. And I think I'm really glad that we at least emotions dikhate hain, jaisa bhi ho. I think that's one.
That is a cultural thing for us, and for there is nothing right or wrong in anything, but that is what our culture has been generally, as well as in the art forms as well.
Oh, definitely, absolutely. So we spoke a lot about your craft. We spoke a lot about you on what makes Atul Kulkarni the artist, the actor that he is. But when you're not in front of the camera, or when you're not on stage, what does Atul Kulkarni do to relax? What keeps Atul Kulkarni relaxed and at bay at home or whatever? What do you do to chill out?
Well, I've always believed and I've maintained so in my life that my profession is not my life. And according to me, it should be so for everyone. Your profession cannot be your life. We should be able to differentiate between means and the end. साध्य और साधन क्या है, इन दोनों में फर्क है. तो आपका प्रोफेशन आपका साध्य नहीं हो सकता, वो साधन है. That I have completely believed in. So I do a lot of other things which interest me. I just retired from my NGO, which I was president of for last 14 years. We work with, my NGO works with tribal children in education, primary and pre-primary education. So I founded that NGO and I was working with it for last 14 years. Now I have retired from that. There is another project of forestation, which we are doing for last 16, 17 years. So I'm part of that. Then, of course, there is reading. I'm interested in politics and social issues and all that. Politics in the sense of not participating into politics actively, but as a citizen, I'm quite aware about what's going on politically all over the world, whatever I can gather, and social issues. I read. I travel a lot. I make these solo trips all over Europe. Every year. So these are a lot of which I love. And I absolutely love doing that. Do nothing, just sit at my farm and look at the trees. That's it.
You know, actually, nature heals so much. And I've realized that I think during lockdown, how important it is for us to be with nature, because it's a reminder of where we've come from. You know, I think in terms of our actual spiritually and in terms of naturally also. And I think it's wonderful to have that, you know, Atul. So I feel like it's very comforting to just be with nature. Like I just see ducks in my park, and I literally get chased by squirrels also because they think I have food, but I don't have food. So it's quite nice. I mean, I'm sure you must feel also a sense of comfort, right, with nature, and a sense of healing. Do you feel that also as well with nature?
Healing, I don't know, because to heal you should get hurt first, and I don't know if I get hurt that often. But yes, I think I'm more comfortable outdoors, in the sense of in nature, when it is the weather is moderate and there is greenery and there is water, which is, you know, very calm waters, not sea, which is not very calm. So yes, definitely 100%. I love these walks in, you know, forests or beside the lakes or canals, rivers. So yes, you are absolutely right, because that is our core element. You know, that is who we are. We are just part of what is around us. What we have created again, we have to mention the invention of agriculture. So since then we have started creating so-called artificial things out of the natural things, and we have come up to this point in just 10,000 years. You know, we have eradicated the history of millions of years that we were living very happily with. So yes, you're absolutely right, and I completely love being in nature.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, I think, you know, honestly, Atul sir, I think the most wonderful thing that I've admired, actually, I mean, I've watched many of your interviews, and I've watched obviously your works from a very young age. Even a film like Satta, I really loved as well, of yours. And I think one thing that I love is the awareness you have about your craft and about yourself as a person. I think that is so admirable to see that. And it's no wonder why your roles really strike a chord rather with so many people across the world, and why you are truly the force to be reckoned with as a talent. And I'm just so grateful, sir, to have you on Filme Shilmy. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It was a great pleasure, Anuj.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. And wishing you all the very best for your upcoming projects. And I cannot wait to catch up with you once again.
Sure.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.